So the question is, do you have to be submissive to be a feminine woman? What does that even mean, and how would something like that even play out in our modern day world? Well, I'm gonna dive into that today. Hey guys, and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Jills, and I talk about things like feminine energy, self-improvement, and wellness for women. So if that's something you're into, you should definitely hit that red subscribe button below and join the community. So one of the biggest misconceptions, or I would say more of a misunderstanding about the feminine, is this idea of submission. And I really want to talk about this today because I haven't yet brought it up on my channel, and it can be something that's a little bit confusing and also kind of triggering for people. And I totally understand why this idea of submission would be triggering for people, because it was for me too. You know, the word itself kind of just has like a negative, repressed feeling to it. So instead of using the word submission, I want you to replace it with the word surrender. At the end of the day, at least in my opinion, submission is about conscious trust and surrender. It's a choice. It's always a choice. So first, let's talk about what this means in a relationship context, and then I'll talk about what it means in like a more general sense. So in a relationship with a masculine partner, a healthy masculine partner will naturally desire to lead. But here's the important part. They will invite the feminine in. They will create the opportunity for the feminine to be led. It won't be forced, it's a choice. Whereas the wounded masculine, on the other hand, will try to force power and control. It'll try to push and dominate. It's two very different approaches. One creates the opportunity for leadership, while the other more so tries to control. Now let me just back up for a sec. If you are a naturally feminine woman, then one of the best feelings in the world will be when someone you trust says, "Don't worry, I've got this," or "Don't worry, I'll handle it, I'll take care of it." And you know that whatever it is gonna get handled, it's gonna get done, that person's gonna follow through, and you don't have to stress about it. After all, stress is one of the biggest killers of our own feminine energy. So to a feminine woman, this is so appreciated and it makes us feel really, really good. But for a naturally more masculine person, one of the best feelings in the world for them is to be able to provide that sense of safety and security, to be able to handle it for you, even though you could totally do it yourself, to actually make a positive impact in your life, and to feel the appreciation and gratitude of those efforts. This is an extremely rewarding feeling for a naturally masculine person. And so here's where the submission or surrender comes into play. A feminine woman or feminine person will naturally desire to surrender to the masculine and naturally desire to be led by the masculine if and only if the masculine is deemed trustworthy and reliable, if they know that they have their best interest in mind, if they know that they're operating with the highest consciousness and integrity. Again, this is a choice, and this decision can be changed at any time. You are actively choosing to surrender to the masculine, and you can actively choose not to do this at any moment if something feels off or that trust and that reliability is broken. Because in a relationship context, that surrender is something that is earned. To be a feminine woman and a feminine partner, you don't have to be 100% submissive all the time. It doesn't mean he's making every decision for you. It definitely doesn't mean that he's walking all over you. But it does mean that you are open to receiving the gifts of the masculine. And for you to receive those gifts, you have to surrender to them. You can still say no, you can still disagree. It's not about him telling you what to do or how to live your life. But feminine submission or surrender, whatever you want to call it, the word itself doesn't matter, is about opening your heart to that presence and accepting those gifts of love, guidance, structure, protection, providing, all of those wonderful masculine traits. A big aspect of feminine energy is that receiving energy, right? And you can't ever really receive anything unless you surrender to it. In a partnership, surrendering can be a really wonderful thing that is done by the feminine for the feminine. And when it's done right and in a healthy way, it is a gift to the feminine. And again, if at any point something seems off, if at any point your intuition is telling you no, then you don't have to allow that energy in anymore. Submission to someone else's masculine is not innately given, it's earned. And this brings me to the whole concept of feminine testing, which is something I also have not yet talked about on my channel, but I do want to bring it up real quick because I feel like the two kind of go hand in hand. For the feminine to surrender to the masculine and trust the masculine, right? The feminine needs to feel that strength, that consistency, that reliability of their partner And she needs to feel it very often. So if at any moment when the feminine is not feeling that, she will oftentimes start to test him. And this is usually a very subconscious thing, but she will start to test him to see if he is indeed still strong, still reliable, still consistent, still operating with the highest consciousness and integrity, still has her best interest in mind. And it can sound a little bit manipulative, but it's truly not. She just wants to feel his strength instead of feel him crumble and fall apart. So what does feminine testing look like? This can look like expressing heavy emotions and seeing how he reacts. Does he stay calm and sturdy and hold space for that? Or does he panic? Does he get anxious? Does he close up? Does he feel threatened? It can look as simple as the feminine asking the masculine partner to make a decision. Does he stay grounded and conscious and take action? Or does he put it back on the feminine and say, well, I don't know, what do you want to do? It's in these little moments where a feminine person will either feel that strength and stability or she won't. And how they react will either make her feel more safe with them and make her more comfortable surrendering to their energy, or it'll make her feel like she needs to rely on her own masculine energy instead. Truthfully, it takes a lot of trust to feel comfortable surrendering to someone else's masculine energy. And if you don't feel comfortable doing this, then either one of two things is happening. Either one, he lacks strength and consistency and all that stuff, so you don't feel comfortable doing this, you can't feel like you can rely on him, or two, you have your own trust issues and inner wounds going on. Think about when you were a young kid all the way up to like high school age. How did masculine energy show up in your life? Was it unstable, unsafe, flighty? Because if so, this can still really impact you today. But back to the main point here, a feminine woman or feminine person naturally wants to surrender to strong, healthy masculine energy. It's not about getting taken advantage of, it's not about getting walked all over, it's not about not living your life for you. It's about trusting your partner's masculine energy when and only when you know that they are reliable and leading with love. And if this is not the case, then that surrender is not given. But what about not in a relationship capacity? What about just in life? Should you embrace more of that submissive nature? Well, it kind of depends on your definition of submissive. I highly encourage you to embrace more of that open-hearted, gentle, compassionate nature that you have and break down that shield that so many women put up as they grow older. But again, it doesn't mean you have to get walked all over. It doesn't mean you have to be meek. It doesn't mean you have to play small. It doesn't mean that you have to take direction from someone when it doesn't feel right to you. Remember, submission, at least the way I see it, is really just conscious trust and surrender. But this isn't just with other people. That's just one part of it. This is also surrendering to certain situations in life. This is about letting go of control. It's about trusting yourself. It's about trusting the universe or God or a higher power. It's about trusting your desires. It's about trusting on a deep level that what is meant for you will find you. So I've talked about this in many of my past videos, but one thing that makes the feminine so innately powerful is their magnetic ability. And instead of going out and pushing and fighting to get what they want all the time, they can instead energetically attract it to them. But again, in order to do this, you must surrender. You must allow things to come to you. You have to be open and receptive. And another big thing too, as women who are in touch with their feminine energy, a big differentiator between the masculine is our ability to flow through life. Instead of always making a practical plan and following it to a T, we oftentimes listen to our hearts, we listen to our bodies, we listen to our inspiration and our desires, and we hear moment by moment what it has to say, and we account for this inner wisdom, and we listen to it, and we're led by it. But to take advantage of this flow, you have to surrender. You have to surrender to what is. You have to surrender to what comes through. We become our most powerful feminine selves when we incorporate this surrender into our life. Sometimes it doesn't always make sense in our modern world, but that is the beauty of the feminine. It's mysterious, it's ever-changing, it's chaotic and gentle at the same time. It feels deeply, its intuition is its radar. And in our modern day linear masculine world, that just sounds confusing and wrong. but that's just because it's so uncommon and so misunderstood. So if you want to lean into this and embrace more of that submissive nature, embrace more of that feminine energy, it doesn't mean you can't stand up for yourself. It doesn't mean you have no boundaries. It doesn't mean you're a pushover. But to really harness your feminine power, it does mean you need to submit or surrender to the flow of life. You need to surrender to your emotions and your feelings. You need to surrender to the inspiration that comes your way. You need to surrender and relax into all of the goodness and allow yourself to receive all of the gifts in your life instead of resisting it and thinking, what's gonna go wrong here? This submission at the end of the day is an openness to receiving and an openness to being led by something outside of our own logical, practical mind. So to wrap it all up, to be a feminine woman, you don't have to be 100% submissive all the time, but it's about not being afraid to surrender when you can. It's about being open to receiving those gifts and seeing how powerful this act of surrender can really be. In my opinion, this is what it's all about. I hope this video resonated with you and you can really understand the message that I was trying to get across, because I feel like this topic can be a little bit confusing and sometimes a little bit hard to articulate. But if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to hit the like button below because it really does help me out. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that red subscribe button below so you don't miss any new videos. Now before you go, if you haven't seen this video, How to Be Nice Without Being a Pushover, I highly recommend you go check that out, because being a feminine woman is not about being a pushover, but it's still so important to remain kind and open-hearted. So I will see you over there, or I'll see you in my next video. Love you guys. Bye.